Along with Virginia's allegation of trafficking, Andrew Lowney, who has written the royals' unauthorised biography, claims to have laid bare other potential crimes, almost all driven by Andrew's hunger for cash.
Tonight we examine something the palace never intended the public to hear, a quiet but ruthless strategy unfolding behind closed doors. A strategy designed to control two individuals who for decades have left the monarchy bracing for the next embarrassment. Sources now claim Buckingham Palace has assembled a locked dossier containing more than 30 years of private information on Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor, and Sarah Ferguson. Not gossip, not speculation. Documented behaviour, financial links, compromised friendships, and personal indiscretions that senior aides have reportedly decided can no longer remain scattered and unmonitored. The file exists for one purpose: to ensure that Andrew and Sarah remain silent and compliant at a moment when the Crown cannot withstand another scandal. Because the truth is simple.
And the accommodation will be bankrolled by the King. The same can't be said for Fergie, who's homeless and not swimming in cash by the looks of it.
Yes, she's hoping some sort of generous benefactor will take her in, but the thing is, that's been happening now for 30 years.
They carry enough damaging material to detonate the monarchy's public image, if even a fraction of it ever became public. This is the assessment of senior insiders, who describe the pair as a long-term risk, a risk now being managed through one of the most dramatic internal measures the modern royal family has ever taken. The decision to compile the dossier did not appear out of thin air. It followed a string of fresh shocks that reminded the palace that both Andrew and Sarah remain liabilities. The first blow was the posthumous memoir of Virginia Giuffre, which placed Andrew's alleged conduct back into the global spotlight. Even after her death, the claims retained power, and the palace understood that the story was far from dormant.
Day after the infamous photo of him with 17-year-old Virginia Giuffre hit the papers. That email was sent months after he claimed he'd cut ties with Epstein. If true, it could mean he lied during his infamous 2019 Newsnight interview.
Then came the leaked Epstein emails, the messages where Andrew supposedly complained that he could not take any more of the pressure. Emails that reignited questions about his judgment and his private actions. This was a stark reminder that material connected to Andrew still lurks in archives, inboxes, and private servers that the palace cannot fully control. For the monarchy, the nightmares of the past 2 decades were resurfacing, and the Yorks were once again at the centre of it. Royal insiders say the King acted after significant pressure from 2 key figures, Prince William and Queen Camilla. William was angered by Andrew's insistence on issuing pompous, self-referential public statements, as if he was still entitled to speak on behalf of the monarchy.
Because the King isn't there to exercise some grip. Prince William is quite rightly with his wife and family while she's recovering and having treatment for cancer. Nobody exercising any grip.
No.
Princess Anne should have handbagged him.
I don't know.
Statements that infuriated senior staff and made the palace appear weak. Camilla, who has no patience for the chaos surrounding Andrew, reportedly urged Charles to draw a firm line. She has long believed Andrew and Sarah create unnecessary instability, and that their scandals drain public goodwill from a monarchy already under scrutiny. This was the climate in which the dossier was created. Not as a curiosity, as a weapon of restraint. The palace has decades of material concerning Andrew's behaviour. Some has leaked, much has not. Among the documented controversies are allegations that he hosted sex workers during an official, taxpayer-funded trip to Hong Kong, claims that he entertained up to 40 prostitutes during a visit to Thailand, his close, inexplicable friendship with Epstein, long after Epstein's first conviction.
Prince Andrew is being stripped of his prince title. But why now? Buckingham Palace said the King has today initiated a formal process, and his younger brother will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He gave up his other titles earlier this month, including the Duke of York, after facing questions about his private life.
Reports of staff complaining about his explosive temper, entitlement, and demeaning treatment of employees. His now infamous refusal to travel with anything other than a personal ironing board, valet, and a series of demands that became a joke among palace workers. The disastrous Newsnight interview that destroyed the last remnants of his public life. This is before even touching his financial dealings, overseas associates, or the company he kept during the years he believed himself untouchable. To put it plainly, Andrew's private world is a catalogue of hazards, and the palace knows it. Royal Lodge was the last symbol of Andrew's former status, a 30-room mansion he clung to with extraordinary determination. But the king's patience broke. The property is no longer his to defend.
The terms of the lease say that as long as Prince Andrew maintains the upkeep of the property and the repairs and the renovations, then he is within the terms of the lease, and therefore it is very difficult to remove him or for him to move out.
Andrew will be moved to a small cottage on the Sandringham estate, a controlled environment, limited staff, no grand halls, no private wings for visitors who might raise questions. It is not merely a downgrade, it is containment. But even Andrew is not considered the true danger. The real risk is Sarah Ferguson.
According to royal biographer Andrew Lowney, the palace's concern is not Andrew speaking publicly, it is Sarah. He put it with stark clarity. Andrew knows everything, but he will never talk. He told all of it to Fergie, which makes her the threat. Despite a long public history of poor judgment, Fergie has always had one advantage: access. She spent decades next to Andrew. Holidays, private dinners, financial conversations.
Sarah Ferguson has broken her silence over rumours about remarrying her ex-husband, Prince Andrew. Speaking to Bella magazine, Sarah said, "I get asked that all the time. We are very happy as we are now."
Late-night confessions, tense arguments, names that were never printed, trips that were never logged publicly, associates who vanished after Epstein's downfall. She knows details that have never seen daylight. Not because she is malicious, but because she has lived inside the story. And the palace knows exactly what she could reveal if she ever felt cornered. The dossier reportedly includes her own string of indiscretions, which the palace has not forgotten. These include her attempt to sell access to Andrew to undercover reporters, her mountain of unpaid debts, and her long reliance on wealthy benefactors to bail her out, the £15,000 loan from Epstein, and their continued relationship, the persistent reports of heavy spending and chaotic finances, including £65,000 on a personal trainer she only saw twice a year, her tendency to speak casually in interviews about private royal matters, her long-standing desire to remain a public figure despite the monarchy's discomfort. These incidents paint a clear portrait. Fergie is impulsive, financially vulnerable, unpredictable. This combination makes her dangerous to the monarchy. In the past year alone, Sarah has generated several new headaches for the monarchy. Her children's book being abruptly withdrawn from sale without explanation raised fresh questions. Her increasingly visible presence at public events, despite being an unofficial figure, irritated senior aides. Her involvement in the Epstein email fallout renewed scrutiny of her own link to the disgraced financier. Her looming relocation to Portugal to live in Princess Eugenie's villa suggested she is preparing for a life away from royal control. And most recently, insiders claimed she is once again considering writing a memoir, prompted by financial need.
I suspect he doesn't. I don't think he has much self-awareness. I mean, that thing that was apparent from that Newsnight interview, wasn't it? That was the thing that came across, I think, most strongly.
He thought it had gone well.
Yes, he thought it had gone well. He doesn't really have any self-awareness. He doesn't really understand how people see him.
The palace saw all of this and reacted in the only way it could. The fear inside Buckingham Palace is not simply what happened in the past. It is what could still surface.
There are serious unanswered questions. What did Sarah witness during Andrew's jet-setting years? Which financial backers supported the York household and why? What private behaviour of Andrew's did she observe that never made the press? Why did she insist so strongly that Andrew was misunderstood behind the scenes? Which high-profile individuals visited Royal Lodge over the years without public acknowledgement? And what exactly does she know about Andrew's darkest period during his time with Epstein? It is the potential for new revelations that alarms the palace, not the old ones. And this is why the dossier exists, to hold them in check if they attempt to take the story into their own hands. According to insiders, the plan is as follows. Andrew will be relocated and kept out of the public sphere. His staff will be reduced. His inner circle will be monitored quietly. Sarah will be handled differently, not aggressively, but with unmistakable pressure. She will be reminded at appropriate intervals that the Crown holds material that would be deeply damaging if released. This is not negotiation, it is containment. If a dossier of this nature truly exists, it marks one of the most decisive internal actions taken by the modern monarchy. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been removed from public life. Sarah Ferguson has been identified as the volatile variable. And Buckingham Palace has prepared itself for the possibility that one day, one of them might decide to talk. The firm is not waiting for that moment. It is preparing to prevent it. This is control in its purest form, and it's the clearest warning they will ever receive.
In recent months, a fresh wave of allegations has circulated in royal and investigative circles that deepen the already troubling picture surrounding Andrew. Former staff from his overseas tours have described what they called a pattern of late-night visitors at luxury hotels booked under diplomatic cover, including claims that Andrew insisted on entire floors being cleared for privacy during certain trips.
There was a case for his basically financial corruption, the way that he abused his position as the special representative for trade and investment between 2001 and 2011. He was helping his business chums do business, for example, in China and the Middle East.
One long-serving royal protection officer, speaking under anonymity, alleged that Andrew made unscheduled detours while abroad, which security staff only learned about after the fact, often involving private dinners with individuals whose names never appeared on official itineraries. There are also persistent whispers inside diplomatic circles that certain foreign business contacts courted Andrew aggressively during his years as a trade envoy, offering hospitality packages that raised eyebrows and were quietly reported back to the palace. None of these claims have been fully verified, but the very fact they continue to emerge illustrates why Buckingham Palace considers Andrew an ongoing reputational hazard, and why the dossier reportedly stretches far beyond what the public already knows. All of this leaves the monarchy in a position it had desperately hoped to avoid: a disgraced former prince with decades of questionable behaviour behind him, an ex-wife who knows far more than is comfortable, a royal family now operating on defensive footing, holding a dossier that exists purely because they fear what could still emerge. Sarah and Andrew have long been unpredictable, but for the first time the palace appears to be treating them as an active threat rather than an historic embarrassment. It is an extraordinary moment that demonstrates just how fragile the institution remains beneath the polished exterior. If even a fraction of what insiders claim is accurate, we are witnessing the Crown preparing for impact. Quietly, strategically, ahead of time. And the question now is not what the Yorks have done in the past, but what they might yet decide to reveal. The monarchy is bracing for further shocks. The public may want to do the same. If you want continued updates as new information surfaces, make sure you subscribe to the channel. New developments are coming, and this story is far from finished.